If you believe you can or believe you can't, either way you're right. Henry Ford. What's preventing you from achieving your goals? Is it GAIL? Hi, this is Greg Starkman with Platinum Method Coaching. In today's installment of your Blueprint for Success, I want to talk to you about what's preventing you from achieving your goals. Is it GAIL? No, I'm not talking about your friend Gail who lives down the block. I'm talking about the acronym GAIL, which represents energy blocks that hold us back from getting what we want in life. But before we define and discuss GAIL, we need to understand a bit about energy. Like attracts like, and we each attract and create our own world. You are an artist, and your life is a blank canvas. By not focusing on what was, and instead focusing only on what can be, you create the world you choose. Everyone wants abundance in their life. Living an abundant life begins with believing in and focusing on an abundant world. Wherever we put our attention is the direction we head. If we focus on failing relationships, not finding work, not having enough money, then we create and live in those realities. Energy attracts like energy. It's important to recognize there are two different types of energy, the first being anabolic. This is the constructive, healing, building energy. This type of energy releases anabolic hormones, such as testosterone, into the body. The other type of energy is catabolic energy. Catabolic is the draining, destructive energy. We usually associate it with stress or the fight or flight responses. This type of energy releases catabolic chemicals such as cortisol and adrenaline, which actually eat away at our very cells. Historically speaking, these were necessary for self-preservation, maybe like to escape a tiger. But in modern society, these hormones can be quite damaging if we keep releasing them on a regular basis. Another way to think about this is that your thoughts and your feelings actually produce very real physical reactions in our bodies by producing hormones. So we can control how we feel by what our bodies experience. To put it more simply, in order to feel better, have a more rewarding, satisfying life, be healthier, we want to increase our anabolic hormones, such as testosterone, and decrease our catabolic hormones, such as cortisol and adrenaline. Now, if you want to know more specifically how this works, you can always call or email me to discuss. So this brings us back to our friend GAIL. Who is GAIL? Well, GAIL is an acronym for a series of energy blocks that hold us back from achieving what we really want in life. GAIL stands for Gremlins, Assumptions, Interpretations, and Limiting Beliefs. All these things are born out of our past experiences. Now, one of the major differences between therapy and coaching is that therapy focuses on things that have happened in the past. Coaching focuses on the present. While it's not necessary to resolve all your past negative experiences, acknowledging the past can be helpful for moving forward. So, what exactly does GAIL stand for? The first letter G stands for Gremlins. Gremlins can be thought of as your inner critic, or the voice that tells you that you're not good enough. If we talk to people the way we talk to ourselves, most of us would be in jail. Gremlins usually want to play it safe and be cautious. It's not what you think that holds you back. It's what you think you're not. So how can we understand our gremlins? Well, here's one way to think about it. I am fear. I am the menace that lurks in the paths of life, never visible to the eye, but sharply felt in the heart. I am the father of despair, the brother of procrastination, the enemy of progress, and the tool of tyranny. Born of ignorance and nursed on misguided thought, I have darkened more hopes, stifled more ambitions, shattered more ideals, and prevented more accomplishments than history could possibly record. Like the changing chameleon, I assume many disguises. I masquerade as caution. I'm sometimes known as doubt or worry. But whatever I'm called, I am still fear, the obstacle of achievement. I have no master but one. Its name is understanding. I have no power but what the human mind gives me, and I vanish completely the facts as they really are, for I am really nothing. Hopefully this gives you a better idea of how to recognize a gremlin. So now that you understand what a gremlin is, we can refer to him as our negative inner voice. Now, how do we deal with him? Many times, simply by recognizing the gremlin, and perhaps even naming him, we can lessen his power. By doing this, you can discover that this is only one voice, and it doesn't represent who you really are. Here's a little conversation you can have, and it demonstrates a way in which you can identify and even dismiss a gremlin. So, what you're saying is you're just not capable of doing this job in the way that it's required. Well, I keep trying, but I don't know. I guess I'm just not able to think as creatively as others. What do you know about the I'm not good enough gremlin? What's that? It's the part of you that believes that you're less than you really are. Wow, you say that like it's another person. Actually, you can sort of think of it that way. You may even be able to name it. Why don't you give a name to your gremlin? Let's call him Sam. Okay. Well, at least one time this week, when Sam shows up, how about you tell him to take a hike? A gremlin's energy is negative catabolic energy. So what are some other examples of gremlins or our negative inner voice? I'm nothing unless other people love and approve of me. I'm not important. My feelings and needs are not important. I can't cope with scary or difficult situations. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the talent. I'm too fat, or I'm too ugly. At a deeper level, what most of these things are really saying is, I don't deserve to have the things that I truly want. Believing this means that you won't even try to get what you want, which is actually the surest way to guarantee that it won't happen. Many of us create our gremlins by messages we receive from other people, or through reactions to being criticized by others. For example, I am worthless. Ignored by others. My needs don't matter. Or being rejected by others. I'm unlovable. Unfortunately, what tends to happen in holding these beliefs is we act in a way as a result of others instead of the way we really are. And this confirms to us, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's crucial to understand that our own set of mistaken beliefs came about before we could go about reprogramming ourselves with more functional and supportive beliefs. So, here are some more examples of gremlins and maybe some counter-statements we can use to replace them with. I am powerless. I'm a victim of outside circumstances. Instead, why don't we think, I'm responsible for myself, and I'm in control of my life. I can't determine the circumstances, but I can determine my attitude toward them. Here's another. If I take a risk, I will fail. Other people will reject me. Instead of thinking that way, how about, it's all right for me to take risks, and it doesn't matter if I fail. I can learn from every mistake I make. It's okay for me to be successful. Here's one more. Life is a constant struggle. There must be something wrong if life seems pleasurable or fun. A good counterstatement is, life is pleasurable and full. It's all right for me to relax and enjoy myself. Life is an adventure in which I'm learning to accept both the ups and downs. Try one last one. I'm not important. My feelings and needs are not important. How about we try, I'm unique and a valuable individual. My needs and my feelings are just as important as anyone else's. Okay, so when you have these negative voices, these gremlins, here are a couple of questions you can ask yourself to get rid of them. What's the evidence that supports this belief? If I look at it objectively, at all my life experiences, what's the evidence that this belief is true? Is this belief always true for me? Does this belief consider the whole picture? Does it take into consideration both the positive and negative ramifications? Does this belief encourage my own peace of mind and well-being? Did I choose this belief, or has it developed from my influence of family and friends as I was growing up? Now, what counterstatements can you begin using to start challenging your gremlins? Remember, whatever power these may have had in the past, they no longer have anything to offer you and only create stress and anxiety. So why don't you try one yourself? You can pause this if you need to, and take a few minutes to consider any gremlins or negative self-talk that you may have been listening to when you make decisions in your life. Work through an example, and then consider what counterstatement you could begin using to change your life today. I'll give you one, but, use your own or come up with something different. I'll never be able to get a better job that pays me what I'm worth. Now feel free to stop this now and take a couple of minutes to think about it. And I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Hopefully you did that and you found it helpful. So to recap Gremlins, is it necessary to recognize what we hear your inner voice? What do you hear? What do you think? Your inner voice could manifest itself as fear, doubt, or self-criticism. It could be anything that tells you you're not good enough. So anytime you hear this voice, now you can recognize it. And understand, this voice does not represent who you are. It's not the true you. Just recognize that, understand it, and then you can move past it. Okay. The next letter in GAIL is A. And the A stands for assumptions. An assumption is the expectation that because something has happened in the past, it will happen again. We're each a product of our own belief system. Carl Jung has said that man can become so imprisoned in this type of thinking that he's simply incapable of fully understanding another point of view. No two people experience the world in the same way. Everyone's experiences life through their own filter or their own personal history. The interesting thing about a belief system is it doesn't always serve you in a favorable way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it can always be changed to be in more alignment with your values. Many personal dilemmas that clients present to coaches can be addressed by helping the client change the belief that helped create that particular reality. If you want to change an assumption, it's first necessary that you recognize it. So then you can constantly choose to just let it go and take positive action. So when you're dealing with assumptions, the main question to ask is, just because this happened in the past, why must it happen again? If you've ever dealt with someone in the investment industry, you've undoubtedly heard the phrase, past performance is no guarantee of future results. But this is very often exactly what people do. This is our assumption that the future will be like the past. You may have heard the tongue-in-cheek saying, you should never assume, because when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Well, another way to think about this, and it pretty much sums up what we're saying, is when you assume, you're holding yourself back because you're not seeing the entire picture, and you're making decisions without considering all the details. Hopefully that makes it a little more clear. Next letter I stands for interpretations. An interpretation is an opinion or judgment that you create about an event, a situation, a person, an experience, that you believe it to be true. It's the most common energy block. We don't really see the world as it is. We see it as we are. When I was young, one of my teachers tried to teach us this lesson. She brought me and another kid up to the front of the class, and he placed each of us on one side of her desk. In the middle of her desk was a large round object, and I could clearly see that it was black. So she asked the boy on the other side, what color is the object? White, he answered. I couldn't believe it. I'm thinking to myself, this is obviously black. What's wrong with him? The teacher then told me to go stand where the other boy was standing, and he went to stand where I was. When we changed places, she asked me the color of the object. Well, I had to answer white. It was an object that had two different colored sides, and from my viewpoint, or from his viewpoint originally, it was white. Only my side was black. But when you switch places, you can see that it was white on the other side and black on that side. The lesson she was trying to teach us is that sometimes we look at situations from the other person's point of view, and that's the only way to truly understand their interpretation. If we just stay in our position, our point of view, our place, we never see the other person's point of view. So interpretations oftentimes get in the way, and we don't even realize that there are other interpretations. We just assume it's fact. So it's important to keep our eyes open for that. Research conducted about the principles of quantum physics demonstrate that the world we experience is a creation of our perceptions. We simply attract and then see what we expect to see. Now, certain leading experiments and research indicate that we actually create the world we expect to happen. We create our world through interpretations of reality that we make. Now, to create a more enjoyable life experience, one can focus on discovering natural inner peace and joy, rather than to attempt to control outer events and circumstances to find those qualities. If you want to be happy, put your effort into controlling the sail, not the wind. In other words, think about what you can control in life, not about what you can't control. Pay attention to what frustrates you. What could you have changed? So how can we diminish the power of interpretations? Just realizing there are other ways to look at something decreases their power. Think about the following situation. You're coming home from work on the freeway, and you spot a car behind you driving fast and rapidly changing lanes. The car then passes you and cuts you off. What's your reaction? Well, many of us might get upset. We might even respond with some colorful gestures or language. We might interpret the event as, this is just some rude, selfish jerk that's in a hurry. Well, now consider you find out afterwards that there'd been an accident and they were carrying a severely injured child to the hospital. Would you still feel the same way? Had you known or interpreted it that way, you'd have not only gotten out of their way, but you would have done anything you could to help. Now, the exact same thing happened, but your reaction was completely different based on your interpretation of the event. So how can we identify when we're making interpretations? Well, here's a couple of questions we can ask. What's another way to look at it? What would someone else like your friends say about that? What would someone with a completely opposite point of view say about that? By asking questions such as these, we can check to see if we're making interpretations and at least understand that there may be other sides or other points of view or other perspectives to what we're viewing or thinking. Okay, the last letter of GAIL is L, and L stands for limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are something you accept about your life, yourself, the world, or the people in it that limits you in some way. Or stated another way, limiting belief is anything that prevents us from doing something. Some limiting beliefs we may learn when we're young from our friends or families, or they might just be assumptions we've made that we thought were true, but they weren't. One example might be, you ask a girl out when you're young and she says no. You may assume from that situation that girls don't like you, or worse yet, that you're not good enough. Here are some common limiting beliefs. I don't deserve it. I can't do it. It can't be done. Life is a constant struggle. I can't cope with a complicated or scary situation. I am not important. My feelings and needs are not important. I'm nothing unless other people love me. There's someone else more qualified. Do you remember the story about the elephant? My friend and I went to a circus, and we were passing by the elephants. He suddenly stopped, confused by the fact that these huge creatures were being held by only a small rope tied to their front leg. There were no chains, no cages, and it was obvious the elephants could at any time break away from the ropes they were tied to. But for some reason, they didn't. My friend saw a trainer nearby and asked why these huge animals just stood there and made no attempt to get away. Well, he said, when they're very young and much smaller, we use the same size rope to tie them, and at that age, it's enough to hold them. But as they grow up, they're conditioned to believe that they cannot break away. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never even try to break free. My friend was amazed. These animals could break free at any time from their bonds, but because they believed they couldn't, they were stuck right where they were. Like the elephants, many of us go through life hanging on to a belief that we cannot do something simply because we failed at it once before. We have to be careful when we build cause and effect relationships. Most often we do it without even thinking about it. Just because something happens once or twice under certain circumstances, we assume it happened because of those circumstances, and that it will always happen. That's why it's necessary to always keep an open mind and question our beliefs in the world around us. So how do we do that? Let's try to put it in perspective. The truth exists regardless of our beliefs or consent. Miguel de Cervantes once said, "Facts are the enemy of truth." Now, he defined facts as false acceptance of certain temporary situations. The point being that sometimes what we accept as facts are not facts at all, only what appear to be the truth at the moment. If everyone in the world still believed the world was flat, would it be flat? In other words, truth exists whether we believe it or not. Wise people question everything. It may not be a good idea to believe anything on first exposure, and most importantly, not to believe anything you think about yourself that might be limiting in some way. In terms of your consciousness, truth with a capital T is who you really are. True with the lowercase t is who you think you are. Limiting beliefs create inner blocks such as fear, doubt, worry, and guilt. Here are some questions we can ask ourselves to help cut through those limiting beliefs. How true is that belief really? Where did I get that idea from? How has that belief affected me? How can I let go of that belief? How can I put that into action immediately? Here's a few more questions. This is really a series of steps that we can follow to get to the root of our limiting beliefs. What is a problem or limitation that's held you back for a while? What is it that's really stopping you from getting what you want? This is a problem because... And what does that mean? You may need to repeat that question a couple of times. What must you believe that makes this problem even exist? What is it you believe about yourself that's made this a problem? What do you believe about the world that's made this a problem? What is this an example of? When did you decide your problem was a problem? At what point did you buy into this concept? What decision did you make that caused this problem to be born? What does this problem mean to you? What will your life be like once you solve this problem? So that's it for limiting beliefs. Once again, GAIL, Gremlins, assumptions, interpretations, and limiting beliefs. I hope this has been helpful, and maybe you got some techniques you can use to not only uncover your gremlins and limiting beliefs, but also get to their core and ultimately get past them. So now that you have a better understanding of how GAIL influences your thoughts and how decisions we make, there's plenty of scientific evidence to suggest that there's a direct relationship between our thoughts, feelings, and physical well-being, as thoughts and feelings trigger hormones. So if we can change our thoughts and increase our anabolic hormones and decrease our catabolic hormones, not only will we feel better, but we'll also be healthier, both physically and mentally. So if you feel that you're not where you need to be, we can work with you to help identify your limiting beliefs, assumptions, interpretations, and your own personal gremlins to get rid of GAIL. We can help you create a new belief system and get you to the next level to live the life you were destined to live. So this is Greg from Platinum Method Coaching. Hope you found this helpful. Remember, we all have thoughts, feelings, and emotions, but we are not our thoughts, feelings, or emotions. If Gail's giving you problems, call me today at 800-217-7113 to take the first step to bring your life back into balance. You can also email me at greg@platinummethod.coaching.com or visit the website at platinummethod.coaching.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Yelp. So until next time, remember, destiny is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. It's not something we wait for. It's something we achieve. So make it a great day.